Has the Buffalo Bills championship window finally closed? As long as Josh Allen is around, in my opinion, they can absolutely compete for championships, but it gets harder and harder as the years go by. The weight on Josh Allen's back continues to get heavier and heavier. What do the Buffalo Bills have planned for this offseason? In my opinion, there's some banger things ahead, but the limitations are severe when it comes to things like free agency. Now, as of this recording, the Buffalo Bills just traded for DJ Moore with a second-round pick going to Chicago. They get DJ Moore back and a fifth-round selection from the Bears. I actually think this is a great move. The number one team need that I have listed in my notes is the Bills need an outside wide receiver. They 100% got that with DJ Moore. He was a great number one in Carolina and, quite frankly, in my opinion, filled his role in Chicago quite well with Caleb Williams and the turmoil that was a couple of seasons ago. Now, moving forward in the Buffalo Bills organization, there are several team needs that I want to address heading into free agency and the offseason. For starters, edge rusher. AJ Epineza and Joey Bosa are both free agents. They will be commanding a combined around $22 to $23 million in salary next year. Next up, the offensive line. This is the major concern. David Edwards and Connor McGovern are one of the best dynamic duos in the interior offensive line in the entire league. The Bills had one of the best run games in the NFL last season, and if they want to continue that, they're going to have to figure out how to get at least one of, if not both of these guys back into the fold. They're both free agents. Moving on to the defensive side of the football, Matt Milano is a free agent. I think he'll probably be a little easier to get back, but still a guy that could absolutely still go for a few $1,000,000, and the Bills may or may not have that by the time they get around to a guy like Milano. Now let's talk about overall the issues with the Bills organization right now. They are in cap hell, especially after acquiring DJ Moore. I've seen reports that they're as far as $40 to $50 million over the cap right now. Now, will that actually end up being a major problem come free agency? Well, it depends on what the Bills decide to do. They have several cuts and restructures that they can do to clear up some cap space. So I'll start it out. Dawson Knox is owed $17+ million on the cap. The Bills can restructure him, give him a contract extension that would alleviate that, or they could flat out cut him. That would save anywhere from $7 to $10 million. Curtis Samuel is on the books for, I believe, $15 to $16 million on the cap this year. If the Bills cut him before June 1st, they'll save $9 million on the cap. Ed Oliver, Deion Dawkins, and Josh Allen are all owed around a combined $90 million on the cap this year. If they restructure those contracts and maybe throw on a void year at the end of their deals or just shift money to next season, they can save around $33 to $34 million. Holistically, with just these 5 moves and maybe a few others like Tyler Bass getting cut after the end of the summer, they'll save around $50 to $60 million, which would honestly put them back into the green with a little bit of flexibility in free agency. There is a problem with that, though. Let's talk about the free agent targets. I already mentioned Connor McGovern and David Edwards. They are getting a combined value of around $35 to $40 million in yearly salary. Can the Bills afford that? Absolutely not. Not right now, at least. So you're going to have to find replacements. Unless somehow, someway, they work some New Orleans Saints style magic and just throw every single dollar that's in dead cap money to next year, which I don't think that's possible. They're going to have to look at guys like Will Hernandez and Ben Bartch. Both of these guys will be on bargain deals. They're around 30 years old. They've been with their organization for a few years. Hernandez with the Cardinals, and Bartch, I believe, has been with the 49ers for quite some time. Both of these guys are commanding around $2 to $2.5 million. Very affordable for the Bills, but that will come at a cost of the run game potentially. Next up, defensively, I think signing Matt Milano and Shaq Thompson back, getting them back into the fold, is the move that the Bills should be making here, considering the fact that there's not a lot of other value in free agency at the linebacker position for what the Bills have to offer. So getting both of these guys back for a combined like $7 to $8 million is the target goal here. Next up, edge rusher. Getting Joey Bosa back is unrealistic at this point, especially if you go after McGovern or Edwards. He's commanding around $15 to $17 million. I don't think the Bills have that right now. So going after a guy like Joshua Uche or Cleveland Farrell from San Francisco, those are bargain deals. Obviously, you lose the production value that you had with Bosa, or at least with Bosa at the beginning of his career. And in return, you get some guys that aren't exactly the most expensive, but you can sign them to one-year deals and be more cap flexible for next season. At the linebacker position, if for some reason Milano wants to get away from that, or get away from Buffalo, I should say, there are a couple of bargain deals that can be found around the league. Logan Wilson, Devin White, both of these guys performed at a very high level young in their career, but there's not a lot left in the tank there, in my opinion. The production has fallen off. They've bounced around a few teams now. Do they have any juice left? Well, Buffalo's a great place to find out. And then last but certainly not least, I didn't talk about this in team needs because I don't think it's a need. I think it's more of a desire. The cornerback room specifically, but the defensive back room in general needs to get much younger. They have been riding the coattails of guys like Poyer and Trey White for years and years and years. That's got to change. So moving a little bit younger, Adoree Jackson, Noah Igbenogany, both of these guys, 26 to 27 years old. Once again, both of them have bounced around the league, but have had young, promising, appraisals to their game. It's their careers are far from over. They're in the prime of it, and they have improved, in my opinion, a decent amount since the, I guess, quote unquote, disappointing start to their careers. That being said, those are my free agent picks for the Bills right now. Affordability is the key because the cap room, after everything is said and done with this DJ Moore trade, is going to be slim to none. It's going to be really hard to find free agents that are willing to come at, premium value for less than premium contract offers. So that, especially because it's Buffalo. There's not a lot to do in Buffalo outside of play football. The community is great. The environment is great. The organization is awesome. But, a lot of people are attracted to Dallas, Texas, and Miami for a reason. So Buffalo doesn't have that to offer, so free agents might be hard to come by. Let's talk about the draft, though, because that's where the Bills have excelled over the last 7 to 8 years under the Brandon Beane regime. First round pick that they've got, it's near the end of the draft. I think it's the 26th overall pick. I think finding an edge rusher here could be a great move for the Bills. I'm looking specifically at a guy like TJ Parker. He brings a lot of win now experience to the fold here. He's not a development guy. He's not a guy that you have to spend a lot of time with trying to get him up to the speed of the NFL level. Caleb Banks and Caden McDonald, both defensive linemen. I think bolstering that front seven is probably the best, especially against the run. When losing a guy like Matt Milano, that could be absolutely clutch. And then last but certainly not least, if you can't find a guy to replace Matt Milano in free agency, CJ Allen, the linebacker out of Georgia, is getting comped around the 25 to 32 range. Kirby Smart and Nick Saban, there's one thing they know how to do and do it at an extremely high level, and that is build linebackers for the pro system. Dante Hightower, Rolando McClain, CJ Mosley, Roquan Smith as well. The list goes on and on, ladies and gentlemen, with how well they develop linebackers. CJ Allen is yet another guy within that system. I think he'll be a great pro. That's a really high-level pick there for the Bills. But then last but certainly not least, to wrap up this first-round option list for the Bills, Avion Terrell could bolster that secondary unit. It would make them a lot younger. However, of course, with youth also comes, growing pains. Are the Bills in a spot to have growing pains, especially with how poor their defense played down the stretch of the season? I think they're more in a win now place, so looking for a guy like TJ Parker is probably the most ideal pick. Now, moving into the third round, we could talk about, and by the way, we're skipping the second round because they traded that second round pick to the Chicago Bears for DJ Moore. But moving into the third round, I think you could start to expand on your ideas of what it means to grow and develop. There are some win now players there. Logan Jones, center from Iowa, Sam Hecht, also center from Kansas State. These are two guys that could be plug and play on the offensive line. Will the Bills go that direction, especially considering how valuable Connor McGovern has been to this roster? That being said, though, Malik Muhammad is my number one pick for the Bills here in the third round. Will he actually be there? I don't know. The Bills have struggled with that corner spot in the nickel position for years. I think Malik Muhammad could absolutely fill that spot and play at an extremely high level. But if you're also looking to add some beef on your defensive line, Grayson Halton from Oklahoma is a strong defensive tackle that could take the spot of a Daquan Jones, who I believe now is 34 years old and is on the verge of retirement. So there's a lot of different possibilities for the Buffalo Bills this offseason. I've listed out a ton, but let me know if there's any that I missed. I think the number one focus here for the Bills is restructuring all these contracts. In my opinion, swiping the credit card strategy does not seem to work out for a lot of these teams because it becomes every single year is a Super Bowl or bust year. And you will just ride that train all the way to the end of it. Of course, winning a Super Bowl would mean that it's worth it. But if you're the Bills, look at all the unfortunate situations that they've been in over the last 5-6 seasons with losses to Kansas City. I won't even get into what happened with Denver in the playoffs last year, but it seems that the Bills for the next season are going to get more and more expensive as the years go on under the Josh Allen regime, Josh Allen, Brandon Beane regime, I should say. So I'm curious to see what they have to do about that. Maybe they decide in one of these seasons that they just eat it, kind of like what the Chiefs are doing with Patrick Mahomes this season. They're going to eat a lot of dead cap, let Patrick Mahomes heal up. Maybe they're playoff contenders, maybe they're not. It's not the end of the world, but I wrap up this Bills offseason preview to say, what in the world are they going to do if they can't re-sign Connor McGovern and David Edwards? Those are massive holes in their offensive line, and if they can't replace those or come close to it, they will be nowhere near a Super Bowl conversation, in my opinion. But that being said, be sure to like and subscribe. Let me know any other team that you'd like me to do. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you next time.